Hello and welcome to our second match of the night. We had a pretty one-sided series earlier today. Our second one, BlossoM versus Feliz, could be similar to G-Clef, but I'm hoping otherwise. I'm hoping Feliz is going to show the same improvement Ace showed us yesterday.
I'm expecting a lot from BlossoM. They really improved a lot in their drafting style. Also, it worked out so much better. What they have been playing, like Thrall, especially Wiz, when no one else was playing Thrall. He was the only one using in Spider Queen most of the time. But still, when Thrall comes into the meta, bringing his favorite Zero tool, basically he carried few of the games that he played in. They played in Eastern Clash. I think that trend will continue. Maybe after the nerfs come in, I think that's gonna hit them the most. Just because they are excelling so much with Thrall, it's helping them a lot more right now. But still, they have few weeks to work on. So I think right now they have to have their best performance, not really drop any sets to a weaker opponent right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key, right? This is going to be one of your easiest 3-0s to take in terms of maintaining your top 4 spot. But they need to think ahead towards winning games against Tempest, Ballistics, and
BlossoM defeating BlossoM.
well, that happened a lot last year, but we'll talk about that some other time. And of course, Tempest there. KSP Black. So taking wins against those 3 teams is going to be their route to midseason brawl if they're going to make it. So we'll see if things get a little bit more interesting as the season progresses. But tonight, this is one of those matches where they expect to walk out with a 3-0. Any other result for them is going to be disappointing.
Yep. After match number 2, we'll get to see all the games from each teams from Korea, and we'll get to have a great understanding where they are, what they like to do, what they not like to do, how they like to draft into each map. I think this will give all the teams an opportunity to really show what they have been improving. Feliz, we haven't really seen that for a long time, but they also had time, and they can also do something crazy like Ace did, and it really hit us when they brought something else with the Medivh. They were the first one to use it, and I think Feliz can do the exact same thing. It may work tonight.
Yeah, certainly could. Medivh drafts or drafting, like KSB Black tried double support, something like that, something to try to break the meta. The shift towards Hanzo seems to be the winning shift right now over Genji. Genji feels like old news right now. So there's a few ways you could creatively try to get a Maiev draft or try to push the draft into a Hanzo one for you on certain battlegrounds. So I think there's a lot of ways to deal with Genji, and it feels like good Hanzo play is one of them.
Yep, and not just Hanzo. And I think this really is weird. I think right now, because of the meta and this kind of drafting style is so stale at the beginning, also because the Maiev is so strong, that nerf may change the meta later on. But I think the timing is coming for that six ban. I think having more bans, more ban cards for each team, the drafting will be changing maybe later on this year, maybe starting from next year, who knows. But I think it's coming. I think it's about a good time to really change the things. So a lot more brain fight will be happening from all the teams around the world.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about other MOBA's ban system and the sort of
not that many though.
Yeah, but not that many, but the way that other MOBAs have evolved, more bans meant more diversity of play, usually. But on the other hand, adding one more ban, if teams struggle to adapt to it, could just kind of put us in the same spot with just like one tier down. So there's a lot of things to consider. But I personally think, and I know I said the exact opposite at the beginning of the year, but I really think that adding 2 additional bans, 6 bans total, 3 and 3, would be really healthy for the game right now. But I'm guessing we have some sort of technical difficulty, guys, because when G-Clef and I were talking about 3 bans and all sorts of other shenaniganry, that there was a technical problem. But looks like we're moving forward now. Here is BlossoM. They went the way of Tempest in terms of performances in Eastern Clash, coming in as the last seed for Korea, and then coming in as and finishing the last place of the Korean teams. Of course, didn't drop a single series to any Chinese or Taiwanese teams, but still, was the weakest of the Korean teams, just like regular season would have you believe.
Yeah, Wiz, actually his Twitter is not up there, but he does have Twitter, so you can go follow him. And he was called Wiz God back in Eastern Clash. And this team, not a lot of the Korean commentators were highlighting Gondar most of the time, and Gondar has been superb. Actually, Tust and Hooligan says Gondar is one of like the best, like top 3, top 4 tanks in Korea. Of course, they're in top 4, but as a player at the level of the highest level in the world, then they're putting him super high as a. Of course, his hero pool is not as big as the other players sometimes, but still his Garrosh, his ETC sometimes are just fantastic. Carries the team fight even.
It's interesting you say that because on the Western perspective in terms of commentators at the event, he was often pointed out as to be the weakest player on the team, and his Anubrock especially was heavily criticized. But I think that's because that's mostly what we saw at Eastern Clash, and there were a few shaky moments here and there. I'm not going to say he wasn't bad at the event by any means, but he did have some shaky moments. But his ETC was not highly picked in draft because he was not very meta at the event. So I think some of his skills weren't really shown at Eastern Clash specifically, but in terms of Korea and in regular season, I completely agree with that sentiment. Feliz, as you guys could see, is currently in 7th place in the standings, and they're 9-19. We've seen far worse from 7th place teams in the past, though. This is actually a fairly strong record for a team that's playing their first HGC season. Frankel and OJ, of course, the 2 players on this roster that have previous pro experience. Frankel especially, playing in Super League back in 2016. But they come in as the underdogs today. They know that BlossoM has shown a lot of strategy at Eastern Clash, and I think what you and I are looking for in this series is how do they use the downtime? How do they use the mini off season? That's the big question.
Yes, they already had their Tracer locked in. Frankel was snipe banned even from part number 1 when no one else was really playing Tracer Malfurion pair. Of course, that became a thing at the later phase, but even before that, other teams, even the stronger teams like Ballistics, KC Black, they were snipe banning Tracer from the first ban. That's how good Frankel is in the Tracer, but they had a lot more time to work on other things now because they were already good with Tracer comp. Let's see what they are holding against BlossoM. They were the one to choose the map here. We're going into BOE first game.
Yeah, so this is going to be a map that we have a high priority of Tracer for. We have a high priority of Hanzo for. Compared to all the other battlegrounds this week, this has held true. And even in the other regions, this has not been the Medivh map. So I think we're going to stick to more traditional compositions, more like what we saw in our previous series and also what we saw in Eastern Clash for this particular first map. BlossoM will be able to control the draft, though. And as you say, with Frankel locking in Tracer and becoming somewhat of a terrifying Tracer player in Korea, and in fact, shaped the way Tracer was played in regular season in Korea, he deserves that first ban. It's a respect ban of all types. What we're going to learn in this first pick here for BlossoM is whether they think Genji or Hanzo is the better Shimada brother in this meta, and they've already answered the question. This gives Feliz an opportunity, though, for that counterplay we saw from KSP Black earlier, where they were completely fine, allowing the Genji through every game, then picking the Hanzo into it and destroying. So this is going to be the split, probably for the rest of this series. It's going to be the priority of Genji for BlossoM,
Yes.
priority of Hanzo for Feliz.
Depending on which team gets first pick, first ban, but I think those bans will stay up there. And of course, the best pair with Genji Uther, along with Tyrael even. I think they're going really far and extending, thinking about the Marteo, which Feliz brings out oftentimes. But they were able to grab that Garrosh before the second ban phase, so I think they're happy. But they lost that Uther, which I don't think they'll be too happy about.
Well, Malthael is going to be removed here now for Feliz because of how strong he is on this map, and probably looking for a strong solo laner, maybe even the Sonya to come through here now. I don't think they're going to be able to allow BlossoM to grab, or they're not going to go through this next phase without grabbing solo laner, or BlossoM could get Sonya, which is so fantastic with this comp. Even Dahaka is fairly strong with this, like we saw in the Sky Temple draft. Did not work, obviously, for Miracle, but strong draft nonetheless. Looks like they want to actually target ban it here. It's going to open up a lot of interesting possibilities for solo laners. The Junkrat being one of the possibilities with the draft of Feliz, but More likely we'll see something a little bit more passive like the Dahaka or Leoric, or Blaze, of course, is still available. Slipped my mind there.
Sonya is of course a great one. You don't exactly know as BlossoM what Feliz has been doing. Of course, Hanaton was playing mostly Blaze, even when Sonya was kind of meta at the beginning.
Yeah.
He's more of a passive player than an aggressive offensive player, so I thought a Blaze ban would be a better one. But because Sonya was banned, it was an easy Blaze pick, and along with Malfurion, works well with the armor of Garrosh when he's very low in HP.
I think Thrall is a decent pick here for BlossoM with the protection they have for Genji. Thrall's solo sustain, or self-sustain I should say. Can go for a lot of Crash Lightning here. He is a great choice. Also, another more sustainable choice would be the Tychus. But the best choice in terms of objective is absolutely Li Ming. Very strong against Malfurion. Decent against Hanzo. Those are the real options we're looking at here. They will go with the Li Ming. And we'll see what sort of solo laner they want to bring in. Okay, Zeratul.
That's Wiz.
We knew we were going to be seeing something a little bit more aggressive here.
They were the one to ban Sonya, which was kind of weird in a way, but I'm guessing they were thinking about Zeratul from the beginning, or at least in the middle, to ban that Sonya. Zeratul will be, I guess, roaming here and there, sometimes actually stays in lane. In this case, of course, 2 lane, you can actually just wave clear, and oftentimes you go into that Q poking build. No avatar to actually clone Genji or Zeratul this time. But with Li Ming, they will have a lot of poke. It really works out for the team. I think they have a great. I think BlossoM has a really great team comp right now.
Thrall is going to be the final pick here for Feliz. So they're going to be taking that extra poke for themselves in the 4-man rotation. Zeratul has been kind of a mixed bag outside of the big 3 here in Korea. BlossoM tried to use it in Eastern Clash to very weak avail outside of Chinese teams. But the top 3 teams in Korea have used it very well with very dive-heavy comps like the Genji. So it's all about, can they kill Hanzo in these fights? If they can win the longer fights, and Tyrael should be able to out-shield with Uther's help the damage that Thrall can do. And Uther is obviously very good with Zeratul. The first time we ever saw Uther used after his rework in Korea was specifically with Zeratul, specifically on this map. We're talking about 2017 right now, but that's what we saw, G-Clef, and that's what they can do to empower Zeratul, give him those extra, give him the extra armor, to get in the backline and kill Hanzo. Very difficult in theory, but we're talking about Wiz here. And mechanically, if you compare these 2 teams, BlossoM has that advantage.
Feliz also has a pretty good tank front line with Garrosh. There's no percent damage from BlossoM. And with even the Genji and Zeratul, it's really hard to finish off and get the kill onto Blaze or Garrosh. It's going to be very tough, so I think they will be looking for that assassination into the back line of Malfurion, Hanzo mostly, and even Thrall if possible. So all they have to do is defend. They don't really have to go aggressive, and unless Aimer goes in, OJ goes in and toss in one of the target, I think they could just defend and look for a long fight, long sustained fight with Malfurion. I think that's the way they should take the team fight even after 10.
I think that's why getting to that point of the game fairly safely is going to be the goal here for Feliz, as this lane swap totally throws them off. They're going to lose this entire wall, slow rotation up. Thrall didn't get any stacks against Genji in the bot lane, and they're not doing as much damage down there. Okay, well this is great. Wiz has Blink though. Still, that was all they could have hoped for here. That's the only good thing they accomplished. Level 13 is another big spike for Feliz. If they can survive to 10, play a fairly even game there, then get Ice Block, it's even easier to have a proper fight. I think this is... tell me what you think, but I think this is definitely a Twilight Dream comp, personally, because the burst on the other side is going to cut through Tranquility almost every time. You already have the better sustain healing. You don't need to go further all in on that. You just need to make sure you can disrupt the heroes that are so reliant on their abilities, like Genji, Zeratul, and further the Tyrael. Ruin him trying to Sanctification if you can silence him correctly.
I do follow your reasoning, but it's how they think about the bunker. If they think bunker is enough to keep yourself safe away from that burst damage, maybe Tranquility is the way, because it works a lot better with the tank, with their front line. And I think it's along with the team how they think. and also mostly about the support player, what he thinks about the level 10 choice.
Come on, G-Love, I'm gonna pick combustion. Yeah, actually, I think that's a good point. You know, the bunker will serve the same purpose as the Twilight Dream in terms of defensive usage when the dive comes through. Obviously, it won't allow follow-up counterplay like a silence will, but yeah. And the Tranquility can really work well with Garage. Right now, BlossoM has controlled this map massively. They lane swap at level 1, threw off Feliz. They got the top wall, they rotate down. They've camped a little bit faster. They have this camp taken the blue side. I think they just haven't captured it. It should be cleared. Now going to actually come down here and rotate for an invade. Unfortunately, Li Ming is the one who face checks it. That's going to be a dead mage. First blood will go to Feliz, and a pretty unfortunate timing here for BlossoM. This means that like this camp that they wanted to take, they can't really capture it right now.
They needed that range. Of course, Zeratul can poke in. Also, Genji just diving in sometimes. But look at this, OJ will just gain that armor, soaking in so much damage, but that regrowth is coming in.
Regrowth plus the armor from Garrosh is name a more iconic duo, okay? It's just so powerful.
Morales.
Alright.
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 Only in Braxis.
Like, name a relevant healer.
Raynor. Yeah.
Well, Hanaten will get blown up here eventually. Just stuck there, unfortunately, being the lone defender of the Immortal. This is going to give BlossoM the opportunity to dive deep. Great CC chains, though, onto Dudu. He will, of course, deflect through most of that damage. They will win the trade, killing Thrall this time. Who, I don't know how many Crash Lightning stacks he has, but I'm guessing less than 5, given how little he's been able to do this game and how many times he's been threatened.
If you let the Hanzo just freely do damage, Franco is low. And
Li Ming's just having a field day now that the resets are coming through. This should be the Immortal now going over to BlossoM. Just been really better understanding of rotations from BlossoM. And this has never really been BlossoM's strength. Their strength was usually their drafting and sometimes cap control, sometimes just destroying the soul lane because Wiz is so good. But
some crazy strategy.
yeah, or some crazy strategy, but I feel like scrimming and practicing with the other Korean teams that are at the top in Eastern and playing in that international event, the experience they gain from that is starting to show.
I think it's coming in. It'll really show a lot more. Wiz taking lots of CC, almost got caught into the Immortal stun, blinks away.
Dudu has deflect, but doesn't have his dash yet. He will in just a second.
Slow from the yo-yo.
Cleanse too. Well, I don't want to say too late. Just didn't really matter because he didn't have his dash. He's probably like about a second and a half away from it.
But they do get the Immortal, so it's going to be okay. Of course, Kenzie can't poke in too much. They do still have Li Ming, and it's going to be slightly slower. But Feliz has Hanzo anyway, so it's going to be mostly range damage from the other side. So even this Immortal had lots of shield. Look at the damage coming out from the scatter.
Yeah, it's quite good.
Every single time, and
so I mean, if you're playing Hanzo at this level of play, like you don't miss your scatters. You've played your Hanzo's already level 20 plus. You're just a master at it. Look at that even. That was pretty slick, bouncing right between those two. Well, Feliz and BlossoM at fairly even experience, but BlossoM has been controlling it with this poke. A lot of the zoning, a lot of the team fights, they have a lead in structural damage. But obviously the Zeratul pick means that Feliz can stay very even with experience, because Zeratul isn't a strong soul laner. Looks like BlossoM wants to try to grab this neutral camp. I don't think that's reasonable, given that Feliz has scouted this already. Zeratul has obviously shown himself in the top lane, so this is not a surprise.
they know that the only person kind of missing is Genji, and Zeratul's already up there, so Genji can't really camp alone. He's very, very slow. He's not really even checking because they can always check it with Hanzo. You don't have to risk yourself by face checking. Taking this one really slow, as in terms of camp and wave clear, BlossoM lacks a lot of that. So Feliz trying to take that into their advantage and try to soak some EXP so that the next one will change the game when they hit 10. It's going to be very soon.
This game is still anyone's to take. Like, the big power spikes for Feliz are at 10, like you said, and we talked about how the goal for them was to live to 10 carefully, basically not be willing to take any crazy fights pre-10, even if it meant they were going to lose the Immortal. They got a few picks. They even got that kill right after the Immortal phase. And now they're going to go into this Immortal phase, sure, just a little bit behind 10, but in a second, we're going to have a totally even team fight. Anyone could take it. Divine Shield will make this Dragon Blade terrifying. Nerazim instead of Void Prison. So, it's a little bit of trade-off in terms of combo potential here.
It is Twilight Dream.
It is Twilight Dream. You know, I'm not trying to say that this was like 100% correct. I just feel like if you want to play the safest route, it's better. But the bunker does do the same thing. But now at least I guess you have twice as many ways to stop the dive when it comes through.
Brawl is holding in that question mark. Let's see, against the dive, which one's the better one?
I think it depends on the fight. Gonna go for the M&M Heroic Man. If he can get a good Sunder to start a fight to open things up to win it, he's gonna lock it in. If the team dives deep, he uses a lot of their cooldowns and he can use the Earthquake to catch them on the retreat. That's gonna be what locks in. Locks in the Sundering. Here's the Twilight Dream. Big Sunder. This is great combos together here for Feliz. Twilight Dream plus Sundering means they're gonna grab 2 kills right off the bat. That's one of the powers of using the M&M Heroic, as we coined it yesterday, the one shot, one opportunity. You lock in only for the fight.
And you get that Mom Spaghetti if you win. And that was basically maybe too naive from BlossoM. It seemed like, okay, we are going in, so be prepared, Franco, and all you had to do is wall away, and they got trapped in the Malfurion route. It was great teamwork coming out from Feliz, actually. And Twilight Dream, he locked it in, made it work right here.
Yeah, I think that BlossoM severely underestimated their opponents with this. Bleak build coming out from Wiz means that he has insane mobility. And if that fight goes any other way, maybe he can just continue to harass before 13, before Ice Block's up. Sank here, coming in. They want to commit heavily. Already Hanzo is dead, so that's a success. Taunt coming through, though. Going to make this a trade. No mobility options against that one. And this Immortal is doing work. This is not a time when BlossoM wants to be taking bad team fights. Nasong goes down. Jiklef, Feliz is now massively ahead. Liu is going to survive. It looks like, okay, makes himself a trade. That's good enough. They win the fight.
A better trade.
Yeah, they get a team wipe, essentially. And now the Immortal still is heavily healthy, or I was going to say heavily healthy, but heavily shielded. But anyway, he's still very healthy. Going to work on this keep wall. They're going to take down this camp. And Feliz's Talontier up now. They've had 2 much better team fights. In this Zeratul build, and I think in a longer fight, a more straight-up fight, if they could bait out a Sundering, if they could have a more even fight, could allow Wiz to really do some damage. But that window, I think, might have closed. Now Malfurion has Ice Block. Hanzo, he went down in that last fight, but did enough damage to where it didn't matter. And Feliz, I think they're showing up like we wanted to see. We wanted to see better play, better drafting, and crisp execution. In this game, it's just really been them making very few mistakes, but also making snap decisions, very quick committals to, for example, the Sundering they locked in, punishing plays coming through. Like what BlossoM's doing, you're going to make this try to make this a fort trade, basically. Make sure they can get 13, not taking a Talontier down fight.
They risked way too much before. You don't want to risk anymore when you're even behind in this game right now. That engage, OJ of course saved his teammate big time. Leo surviving such a long time, but they now have Ice Block, and also Hanzo taking that 13 can go over the wall so much easier. We'll have that cooldown so much lower in number every single time.
It's getting right on the horse, man. So, Wiz's positioning right now does not get revealed by the Sonic Arrow. Obviously with the cloak rework, he will be seen very soon. It's probably already seen now. But he is standing still. He could definitely look for a big play here. At least force out the Ice Block. It's actually insane he still hasn't been revealed. No one can auto him. I don't think they see him. Still don't see him. They're going to go for the engage here now. Sank is available, but the silence prevents it. And this Cheekov as well, I was talking about with the Twilight Dream. Sanctification does get used eventually here, but already this fight is over.
They lose the camp, but they got the kill. Okay, overall, a very good trade, I would say, for BlossoM. Actually, because they don't lose too much damage, only 0-2. And they can still poke from the side.
Yeah, with Li Ming, I would tend to agree with you. And my only concern is that there's a Hanzo on the other side. This camp is going to be simply ignored for now. Feliz is looking to just rush this Immortal down. Sure, BlossoM has the poke, but they have the better racing damage. They're going to force their way over here. And this Zeratul build has just not been successful. And once again, the lockdown is there for Genji. He doesn't die, but he might as well be dead because he's not doing anything for the rest of this fight. This should be the Immortal going over to Feliz at 80% shields. The cap went down in the top lane. No longer worried about that. I'm going to go back and recover here, grab this well, it looks like, before they commit to the next fight. This gives BlossoM a chance to recover.
Also, Feliz cooldown's coming back very soon. Everything in 617. And compare that to BlossoM, they need some more time to actually have that perfect sanctification. And the Dragon Blade is the big tool.
Being really passive right now, Feliz is. They actually could end up losing this phase if they don't come over now. They're heading up. Modern Life the target here, it looks like. Sundering angle is going to be very important if they really want to hard engage. If they want to take a more defensive engagement, they just need to walk over to the left side here. Gondor sneaking around the right side. They're looking to kind of backdoor this Immortal, so Feliz has to be careful. As you say, they have more poke. So all it takes is just the right angle, and then eventually they chip this down. Feliz needs to be decisive now. And they're really not being. Wiz caught here. Doesn't get hit by that arrow coming out from Hanzo.
This is actually not a bad positioning what BlossoM is doing. They're going all around so they don't get as maximum hits from the scatter arrow. That's one.
Yeah, or
also,
the Sundering either.
And also makes great positioning from Zeratul. There's a stun, not really pairing up too much.
Okay, Hanzo gets the kill onto Tyrael though. Sundering not very useful, but it doesn't matter, the fight's already over. Tyrael goes down and then Uther is going to be the next to fall. And Feliz is just taking these fights with these Twilight Dreams, with these Sunderings over and over and over again. This shouldn't be a game-winning fight for Feliz, but they are going to have 16 now. This may take out a keep. It's at the very least going to heavily damage the keep wall. They're even going to steal this camp because they have Hanzo. They can clear this so fast. This feels like a classic case of I underestimated my opponent on the side of BlossoM, especially with Wiz's build on the Zeratul against a comp that is so good at sustaining against that backline dive. Maybe taking the Void Prism for more utility would have actually been better.
That's exactly what I was just thinking. Just put that right onto the bunker and make sure right after the bunker when everyone's inside that Void Prison, you have the Sanctification. That will be the perfect time. Right now it's kind of awkward for Gondor to use that because everyone's around and...
Look at that bunker, just totally nullifies the Sanctification.
A little too early, but still giving lots of good kills. Limi can get the reset. Is it going to be the time for Modern to pick up all the kills? He goes in, does not find any more kills.
Yep, there's no Twilight Dream in this fight. The first time that the lack of Twilight Dream is really going to hurt Feliz, and so the resets come through. Dudu barely gets away from that Spirit Wolf, can actually look to turn around now and grab a kill. He has that deflect, and they're going to get this full team wipe, but keeps down. Immortal's going to, of course, just suicide on the core essentially here, and they'll have to clean up the... not the Impaler, the Shaman camp, but for the first time, Feliz didn't have Twilight Dream. The Sank was well placed. It wasn't the best timing, obviously, against the bunker, but the lack of Twilight Dream and the split for Feliz was the first time they weren't fully coordinated in a fight. So BlossoM was able to just take total control. But now that we move into this dead keep for BlossoM, Feliz still has an opportunity to come back in this game. They have all the heroics available because they weren't up in that last fight, so they couldn't even use them if they wanted to. And they still have a massive macro advantage. What BlossoM does in this interim before the next Immortal phase, I think is going to be very important. If they can trade out ice blocks, for example, for the crazy blink build that Wiz has, we can do that. They can try to dive Liu and force him to use his ice block early. Or maybe try to force a Twilight Dream before the real fight happens, before the real important engagement happens. They can take a more passive fight with Li Ming and have the backline harassment there. They can race the Immortal with Li Ming, if they can do enough damage to the backline with this dive comp they have. But if they cannot do that, I think Feliz just has the better heroic setup to win a straight-up fight. They have better engagement tools, better initiation.
Let's see, it's about even. And BlossoM, when they made it work with the perfect sanctification right onto the bunker. And 1 kill is all they need. There goes the Dragon Blade. Sanctification on the great placement there. Bunker is gone now. Thundering, try to block what's happening, but that's going to be it. The damage is lacking from BlossoM, and they're dying all over the place.
Wiz gets out, but that's all. This was just, again, good Twilight Dream coming through. BlossoM doesn't have enough consistent damage when Li Ming is the first to die. And this actually could be the team fight that wins Feliz the game, because they have the full control over the Immortal now with the Hanzo composition. Respawn timers are long. They don't have any poke. BlossoM has no poke. All they could realistically do right now is deal with the catapults pushing bot. This might even be a fully shielded Immortal. They could chip off 10% if they really wanted to risk coming into range, but what does BlossoM do now? They have to get a team wipe. Twilight Dream's now going to be on cooldown. There's an opportunity to take these fights, but they need to take them more carefully than just throwing out a Dragon Blade, sanking on top of it, and then saying, okay, this is it. The Sank was perfectly placed, like you said, but the bunker comes up, Sank goes away, Twilight Dream comes out, and BlossoM can't do anything with their comp anymore.
It's really hard. They are going to often lack damage if they don't focus on one target. Now, which one do you focus? It's really hard. Even Thrall, right after the Sanctification, having the perfect Sundering, pairing up with the Dragon's Arrows, multiple stuns right there. And of course, Garrosh Blaze. That's why BlossoM basically were put in the massive damage right there in that circle right after the Sanctification.
Look at BlossoM's comp. What hero in there does damage when they're silenced? What hero has damage? Like, they're all ability-based damage, 100%. So they just can't, if they get silenced, they can't win a fight ever. They're so ability-based, they're so mobility-based, they're so dive-based that the Twilight Dream that you and I weren't even sure about at the beginning, I was thinking it would be that, but you made a good argument against it. It ends up being the strongest tool Feliz has, that plus Sundering, but just be anti-dive and never lose a team fight. Keep goes down, the Immortal's still using ranged attacks here.
And that's 20, I think. That cleanse will save Genji, but I think that's more than enough for them to go all the way to the core.
Bolt here for Thrall, so you can look for a Bolt Sunder. Just going to go for the grab here onto Wiz. Gets the Divine Shield. Okay, good Sank again, but the bunker is going to mitigate most of the damage. Twilight Dream was already used, though. This could be a win here for BlossoM. They just don't have enough consistent damage, though. And that is going to be the full wipe here. Modern Life still alive, looking for resets. But the core is going down. He grabs one. One more here.
They do have two,
Rankle.
but this boss's Immortal is way too strong, and that's going to be game.
Yeah, close call there, but it was enough damage, as you say, with the Immortal, still healthy. And Feliz takes a fantastic first game win here.
So let's go back to the draft and talk about the second Ben Sonya. Was it really worth it when they don't even have Malfurion in there as their support? And that's really what changed everything. Right after the Sanctification, they were all rooted. The burst damage came in. They were all into the bunker, safe from that damage that they lacked so much already. And bunkers kept all the damage inside. Genji could not really do too much with the Dragon Blade. When they cannot get kills, Li Ming cannot get that power spike. BlossoM, I think they trapped themselves by having this kind of draft.
Yeah.
We were questioning their damage from the beginning, and it really showed in all of the team fights.
I think Void Prison could have been giving them a lot more potential if they went for more of a safer Zeratul build with the Void Prison, not all the blinks, but more damage based, like the cleave instead, things like that. A lot better harassment and better fights, like straight up with a Void Prison going down. Then you have the Li Ming potential for follow-up damage when you cancel the Void. Sank comes through. There's a lot of things you could do with that with this composition. And then put the Sank on top of Zeratul so he actually gets more damage. Even if the silence comes down, like if the Sank is used right afterwards, at least everyone's kind of getting back into the flow of things. The engages from BlossoM were so sloppy. It was just Dragon Blade first to start every fight. Sank thrown to where the Dragon Blade is going towards. And that's amazing in every composition except the one that has Blaze in it, which makes you wonder maybe Blaze would have been the better ban, like you were going back to, like you were alluding to, because those bunkers just shut down everything, literally everything.
Yep. Basically, that's that was the beginning and the end. They were lacking damage. Also, some questions now. Do you really pair? Do you really have to have Uther with Genji? I don't think that is the answer right now in this meta. You don't really have to. And of course, Malfurion may be the better pair with Tyrael. After the sanctification, they were all rooted. The CC came in so much more handier for Feliz right now doing the damage. Heard up with Sundering, the Dragon Zero. They had so much CC, and when you're CC'd up with the taunt, Genji could not do a single thing. We'll get blown away with that small HP.
Yeah, the Twilight Dreams are really good. Um, I think that Sundering was a huge impact in this game as well. For how it was able to split some of those fights. They went for the solo pick at the end of the game, which did work, I guess. But the first lock-in from start to basically from start to finish, with the exception of that one Sundering that was used for a different reason, the Sunderings really set up the engage as well, allowed the Twilight Dreams to be used better, stopped the dive coming through, and sometimes the target was Zeratul, so it's just like can't blink, can't do damage.
That's right.
And so the Thrall ended up being a good pick. I don't know if that's going to carry on going forward. Well, based on this play that we saw, I would like to see another map that's based around team fighting that has a boss. For example, if I'm picking a map as Feliz, maybe I want to go to Cursed Hollow. Maybe I want to go to Sky Temple, like maps with big bosses where you can fight a lot over huge objectives, because they were winning every single team fight with the draft they chose.
Well, this is the thing that we wanted to see from Feliz. They were ready for that Zeratul pick to come out and went to Nerazim instead of Void Prison, and he wanted to go in and assassinate, get a solo kill by himself, most likely, but he was targeted as the damage. He got so much damage, he had to be out of the fight. Even Divine shielded Zeratul. That's not something you wanted to see. You want to see on your team. That's like the worst case scenario of Divine shielding of Zeratul when Genji's trying to Dragon Blade on the other side. Come on, you know at that moment you lost the fight, you have to go back, and the game was over at that moment, but still, it was just desperate coming out from your support, and Wiz could not really live up to his name on game number 1, I think.
Yeah, I just feel like they played greedy, they played sloppy, and I think we're going to see a draft that's a little bit more meta moving forward than this sort of draft that felt fun, I guess, in a lot of ways, and was definitely, it had potential to be powerful, but the Sundering, the Twilight Dream, ruined everything they were trying to accomplish. So if Feliz won, very likely means they will have map pick, because you can imagine BlossoM will take first pick away from them to control the draft. So as soon as whatever technical difficulty we have at the moment is set, we will be jumping into that one. Again, I'm looking for a map that lets you control boss zones, lets you fight a lot.
Wait, which battlegrounds were banned?
Braxis and Tomb of Spider Queen. So we're looking at Cursed, Towers of Doom, excuse me, Towers of Doom, Infernal Shrines, which I think would also be a great map for Feliz.
Volskaya.
Volskaya. Well, that's not going to happen.
Dragonshire.
Dragonshire will be the one I'm like, do not go to Dragonshire's Feliz. BlossoM will out-rotate you. They will out-macro you. They will find a way to pick you apart on Dragonshire. So I'm thinking like Cursed, Sky Temple, number 1, and then Infernal is like number 3.
Yeah, I want to see how much Feliz has improved in their macro games. Their team fight potential in game 1, it was great. Not much of a macro play, to so to say, in BOE, but if you go to one of those larger maps, Cursed Hollow, as you mentioned, Dragonshire, it's definitely going to be better for BlossoM. But actually, Feliz.
What do you know? They're going to Cursed Hollow. I like it.
Interesting.
Now, Cursed Hollow is a map that has a lot of macro aspects, especially timing-based ones that everyone's figured out. But if you're going to run a similar draft and you're prioritizing the Hanzo over the Genji and you're going into Malfurion, then you're realistically looking at a lot of potential boss invades, boss contests. And they were basically able to destroy the dive comp of BlossoM. Assuming we're going to have similar drafts, I think this map makes so much sense because you have 2 different bosses to fight over control over. You're going to have potentially a lot of boss control with the comp that they're running with better execution. And that's right, I'm saying even if Tyrael is on the other side like it was in game 1, I have more faith that Feliz will take boss fights with how well they played that last map. So let's see, only time will tell. I'm going to the draft in a moment. I don't know what the technical issue is. If I had to guess, I would say it's some sort of audio problem since we had that earlier. But I don't know.
Maybe BlossoM is having all the issues. I think it's coming, but what else? Let's talk about your vegetables. What did we just get?
I didn't get it. I don't know.
I think it was
hear
like it'll take some time. I think that's what he said. Okay, it'll take about 3 minutes or so.
Okay.
So we have some time to talk about other things.
Yeah.
So,
what were you gonna ask me about vegetables?
how's your diet going?
You know,
Honestly.
You know, it's not going too well, if I'm honest with you, G Clef.
Mhm.
I did some meal prep, so I got my vegetables ready, you know.
The
and
giant broccoli too.
Yeah. And yesterday I was eating some squid, a little bit of crab meat, and basically some chicken breast, right, which is very healthy. A lot of broccoli, as you said, a little bit of potatoes, and some really healthy beans. Okay, I'm gonna put this all in the container. Problem was that
There's no meat.
there's not enough meat. Okay, let's just say. Like there's some
Finally,
there's some
you
like squid.
admitted.
There's some squid in there and all that. But
Seafood is not the same,
I was out with some friends last night afterwards, and you know what I did?
including me.
I ate a pizza. Like a whole pizza. Like it was a thin crust pizza, like it wasn't that big, but like I definitely wasn't supposed to eat all of it, G-Clef, but I did. I started with, I had the meal prep and everything, okay? I had the whole shebang. I had the healthy chicken and stuff. Go home, eat the pizza. Tonight,
Shouldn't it be the other way? You eat pizza.
yeah,
before
I
you
know.
Cast, and then
I
at
know,
the
I know, G-Clef. I'm trying to tell you that tonight,
Yes, Wolf.
I'm going to go home and eat almonds and be sad. And it's going to be exactly correct. That's how the diet's supposed to work.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check back tomorrow.
You're not supposed to go like step 1, like eat the diet food. Step 2, go home and eat a pizza. That's what I did last night. It was not correct. Okay, so yeah. To answer your question, like, no, it's not going well. There's a lot of good food in Korea.
There's a
Like,
lot.
you guys know I tweet about that a lot. I was on a TV commercial about that. There's a lot of